Welcome to another episode of Tales from Miss DeVries. So this piece of wood used to be a living tree, and as a living tree it would have done photosynthesis, taken in the sun's energy and changed it into food. Now that food is stored inside even this piece of wood now. In terms of holding on to that energy from the sun, it's very similar to the food we eat. If I were to take a container of just an average snack, like peanuts, peanuts are a plant product, and that plant product, it's no longer living, but it has stored energy still inside of it that came from the sun. Now, that stored energy is something that we refer to in science as a calorie. Now, you may have heard of calories, and what a calorie is just the amount of stored energy in the food. Oftentimes calories are thought of as being bad, like if you eat too many, that sometimes students will think of them as being like, it's like fat. Is that fat calories? It's not actually related to fat at all. It's simply the energy that's trapped inside the food itself that was taken from the sun. So different plants actually will have that energy stored in different ways. So like from earlier this week, we were discussing the pine tree versus an oak tree. Pine trees store their energy much more loosely compared to an oak tree. So an oak tree will have the energy trapped in very condensed small cells, and as a result stored lots of energy inside of it. And a pine tree will have larger cells which will not store as much energy inside. Now the peanuts here, it comes from one plant, and it really depends on the other types of plants that we use. If we talk about like marshmallows, just a simple sugar, or the corn in tortilla chips, we're looking at different types of plants. So you're going to see different amounts of energy from each of these plants, similar to the pine tree and the oak tree. How do we figure out how much energy is in the peanuts? We want to recreate the process that's actually happening inside the cells, whether that be a plant cell or an animal cell. Inside of those cells, you have a structure in both of them called a mitochondria. And that mitochondria is also known as the powerhouse of the cell. And when food and oxygen enter the mitochondria, it's converted into energy. Now we need to find an experiment that we can use to replicate this process that is happening inside the mitochondria. A way of actually seeing how the energy is created. So we're going to do that by actually burning food. And so this type of burning, or setting fire to the food in the presence of oxygen, so oxygen is going to surround, it's going to allow the fire to burn, will allow the energy to be released out of the food products so that we can actually measure them. We can measure how much heat is released, the energy released from those particular food items. The way we're going to actually measure the energy released is we're going to build a calorimeter. So what you see here is a ring stand set up, and this is a metal bottom, and on top of it we have what is known as the baby barbecue. Basically it's a piece of cork with a dissection pin stuck through it, and you can see a little needle sticking out the top. That's where we'll place our food, again the baby barbecue. On top of it you have a ring stand. You can see the ring there, and this is just a mesh plate, and on top of it we're going to place a beaker. In the beaker we're going to go ahead and put 50 mils of water inside. So the beginning of this is just to understand that the way we measure calories, 1 calorie, like I said, is just energy. It's the amount of energy that comes out of the food. So 1 calorie is the energy that it takes to raise the temperature of water 1 degree Celsius. So that's equal to 1 calorie. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 50 mils of water into the beaker here up on top, and we're going to take a temperature of the before. So before we actually light the food underneath and set it on fire, we'll take a temperature before and see how much the temperature is when we start. And then we'll take a temperature afterwards to see how much it went up. Now that we've got the setup kind of going on, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our food ready. So I'm going to be doing marshmallows first, so a common everyday stack marshmallows. Most of you probably have gone on maybe a camping trip or two. I've definitely gone on lots of them, and you know, we do tend to burn quite a few marshmallows, so you might have an idea of how fast these will actually burn. The next one we're going to burn is peanuts, just one single peanut, and then of course the all-powerful tortilla chips. So I've got my foods laid out. I've got my marshmallow, peanut, and chip, and I've gone ahead and put 50 mils of water just right from the tap. So we're going to go ahead and take the temperature of the before temperature. I'm just going to stick that metal back thermometer in there. We're going to leave it in there for just a few seconds so we can let the thermometer take its temperature. The temperature of the before is 21 degrees Celsius. Go ahead and record that in your before temperatures. Now that water is not going to change, but we will be starting with a new set of 50 mils of water each and every time we do a new food. Place that thermometer in the water again, and we're going to take our little marshmallow and put it on top of the little baby barbecue, leaving a little bit of space so we'll be able to light it up. We're going to go ahead and light up this marshmallow, and then we'll record how much heat comes off of it. And try not to burn any fingers, because you know that's not pleasant. And as soon as the fire goes out, all the energy has been removed from the marshmallow, and we're just going to record the temperature up on top again. All right, and the temperature now after that marshmallow has burned is at 22 degrees Celsius. You've got your after temperature and your before temperature. You're going to go ahead and subtract that to find change in temperature. So you'll see that as triangle temp. So it's the the after minus the before. Once you do that, you can actually calculate calories. There's an equation on your lab sheet to calculate calories. So you're going to take the 50 mLs and you're going to times it by your change. So a change of only 1 degree Celsius for this marshmallow, and then divide it by 1,000. Once you do that, you'll have the amount of calories in a single marshmallow. All right, so I went ahead and replaced the water again, and the temperature is the same. It's 21 degrees Celsius. So this is the before temperature for the next one. This is the peanut. And in order to do this one, I'm going to go ahead and take the needle and drill this into the peanut. So it'll be definitely attached, but not cracking the peanut. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put that underneath, and we're going to go ahead and try to figure out how much energy is trapped inside this particular plant product, the peanut. Okay, so we'll go ahead and light this guy up. Now, get this guy going. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that. He is started, but I'm going to go ahead and use another match real quick. And you can see that burning from that one side. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure he's fully going. Looks like he's good to go now. We're going to let that guy burn. And you can see the energy coming out of that particular peanut now seems to be very steady heat. I also see some liquid dropping off of it. You can see the peanuts turning very black now. And it just keeps going. Again, a lot of energy trapped inside the peanut. Unlike the marshmallow, which seemed to go up very rapidly, this is taking quite some time to get all that energy that's actually inside that peanut. The peanut is beginning to crack a little bit, so we can see a little flame coming off to the side. Again, more liquid appears to be coming off the bottom. That is water vapor that's being released. You can also see that the beaker is turning black. All of this is carbon that's actually coming off and out of that peanut and being released, and you're getting a carbon film on the beaker itself. You can see, again, it continues to burn, and we're going to let it keep burning until the fire goes out. It takes quite some time. There's lots of energy inside this peanut. It's pretty amazing, actually. Now, when the energy is completely released, the fire will burn out. So when there's no more energy trapped inside. Now, just like inside of our cells, that energy is being released by our mitochondria. Now, this fire wouldn't burn if there wasn't oxygen around it, and the same thing is true inside of our cells. And you can see the flame is starting to dim, so we're starting to lose, getting to the end of the energy that's inside that peanut now. It's kind of just mesmerizing, I think, to watch, that it just doesn't seem to die out. It just keeps going and going and going. All right, I think we're getting pretty close. It's quite smelly as we burn that off. All right, and you can see this, it's just dimming, kind of like a candle going out. It's running out of fuel and completely out now. All right, we're going to go ahead and take that temperature. So the temperature now is 48 degrees Celsius. So quite a bit of heat was actually released. So 48 degrees Celsius is the after. Go ahead and calculate your temperature change. So 48 degrees minus 20. And then you can go ahead and calculate the calories using the equation on the lab sheet. So we've gone ahead and cleaned off the beaker and replaced the 50 mils of water. And we're going to go ahead and put our thermometer in. And again, temperature 21 degrees Celsius to start. All right, and we're going to add our last food product here. This is just a regular tortilla chip, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the needle, and this one time we're going to use that a little pocket inside the tortilla chip and get it on there. Not poked all the way through, so there's still a little bit of airspace so that oxygen can completely surround it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and light this guy up. When we light up the tortilla chip, we're going to light all four sides of it. And get that guy going. And we might have to use multiple matches for this. Mr. Reese doesn't want to burn her fingers. Looks like we got two. Now again, this is what we've created here is just what we call a simplified calorimeter. And a calorimeter is just a tool we use to measure the amount of heat that's actually trapped inside this tortilla chip. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let that burn now. And you can see all four corners are now burning. All right, and as it uses up the energy and it changes it into heat energy, as we're actually converting the energy that's trapped inside the tortilla chip into heat energy that we can actually measure. Again, very similar to the process that's happening inside your cells. Now, one observation that you can see is this one seems to burn quite large flames, but it seems to be burning much more rapidly. And we're going to let it burn completely until there's no more energy trapped inside. And again, you can see that the chip is turning completely black. What is left behind is just carbon. There is a little bit of liquid that seems to be coming out of this in the process. Still a little bit of energy trapped in the center of this. And patience. And just like a fire candle going out, we are out of energy. You can see that little smoke come up. And we're going to go ahead and take that temperature again. Okay. And the temperature of the chip is 47 degrees Celsius. So very similar to the peanut in the amount of heat that's released. I'll set that back up on top. Okay, so now that you've got your before and your after temperature, go ahead and calculate the temperature change. So that's the triangle after minus before, and then calculate your calories. All right, so now that we think about and you've calculated your calories and you can see the differences between the three, a marshmallow has very, very low calories. Now, we can look at that on a package as well. On the package, we can actually see how many calories are in here. They have a label for that. But marshmallows have a lot of, not very many calories at all, and it literally burns very rapidly, and they come out very quickly. Now that you've actually calculated the calories for all of the three food snack products, we now know that marshmallows have very low calories. So there's not a lot of energy trapped in a marshmallow, which if we look at the back of the label of the marshmallows, we can see that. The other thing you need to know about the marshmallows is that they're a low calorie food. That means they have low energy, but they're also low in nutrients, which is also something we need to consider when we talk about the food that we eat. When you look at the peanut versus the chips, what we find is that both of these are very similar in the amount of calories that they have. When you look at the peanut, you can see that on the peanut, it's a very high calorie snack. There's lots of energy trapped inside. But the same is true of the chip, and we saw that in our experiment. With the chip, you can see that it has a very similar calorie amount. They're comparative, and so you look at the two snacks and you think, well, they're the same in the amount of calories and energy they have in them. But in reality, there's something we have to also consider, that the peanuts, when you look at that package, it has a lot of nutrients in it, proteins and things that are very good for you and help build bones and help regenerate cells. Whereas the chips are very high in energy, but they don't have there's not very many nutrients inside. So those nutrients that are in the peanut makes for a better snack. So it's something to consider, that not all calories are created equal. So once again, the calories that we find in all three products, we can see the energy that's trapped inside of them. But not all calories are created equal, as we would say. So, you can eat all of these foods in moderation, but some foods are going to be better for you. All right, so one other thing you should consider as you're thinking about snack foods and calories is how many calories should an average teenager eat in a day. And the average amount of calories for the average teenager is about 2,500 calories a day. And trying to think about how much that would be if you're an average teenager. Now, an average teenager is somebody who, goes to school, goes to PE, they're running around, they're playing sports after school. But if you mostly sit down and you don't tend to be very athletic and you're not involved in a lot of sports, then you don't need as many calories. So what you're using needs to be what you're actually consuming. So if you eat too many calories in a day, your body is going to change that energy and it's going to store it in your body as fat. And so it's just, you're kind of like a bank. You're storing the calories, the energy for a day when you need it. So, if you eat the entire bag of Doritos or the entire bag of tortilla chips, what you're going to find is that you don't need all that energy to survive, to breathe and keep your heart going and move around. So you have to have a balance. So how many calories you take in needs to be about as many calories as you actually use. If you want to actually lose weight, you'd want to go ahead and eat fewer calories than you're actually using. That way you can actually decrease your weight. If you eat too many calories, you're going to increase your weight if you're not using it. All right, now that you've kind of seen how the experiment works, what I want you to do is at home, get your parents' permission. I want you to go into your kitchen and find some different dry foods. Now, the reason you need to use dry foods is because if the food has water in it, like let's say I want to find the calories of an apple, you can't just set an apple on fire. It doesn't quite work that way. Water, it will not burn. Now, the reason why water doesn't burn is because it doesn't have any calories. It doesn't have any energy in it, so it won't allow you to set it on fire. So all calories are counted after food has been dehydrated. So you have to remove all the water and then burn it. So I want you to find foods that are already dry. There are two different ways to set up the experiment if you do not have a thermometer. I've set that up on the lab sheet, so go ahead and check that out. You can see the data table that I created and I put on there. You can put that into your I&B. If you have a thermometer though, I've also posted how to set up your own calorimeter experiment using household tools, so you can use that as well. All right, thank you for joining us for our calorie lab, and I will see you next time with Tales from Miss DeVries. And what the plant does with the food. No, I'm not going to do that. That's not where I'm going with this. Ouch. I keep doing that.